host, and I'm joined by
William Hanley. Welcome to McCallie Sports Now.
This is our March Madness episode.
The time has come, folks. The college basketball tournament that we've all been waiting for, all basketball season long, is finally upon us. And now we're here to break down the brackets. We're here to provide our takes that'll hopefully get you where you need to be.
Exactly. But if we mess you up, if we get you angry, don't come at us.
We won't be held liable.
No, we are not held liable. That's an important disclaimer.
I'm telling you, especially after last week, Hanley's Corner didn't bode well for me. I'm telling you. Alrighty, so getting right into it, our layout for this episode, we're going to have 4 of our 5 analysts come out today, provide their final fours, their sleepers, and their ultimate champion of the college basketball tournament.
Okay, so who is your final 4?
I'll say this much. This year's been significantly more difficult to pick than last year. I sat down last year to make my bracket, and I looked at it, and I said, Villanova will win.
Okay.
Sure enough, everything worked out well.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that I have the same amount of juju this year that I did last year. With that being said, I don't want to say that Duke won't win this. I want to say that Duke will take it all. They're just such an outstanding team. They have such a stacked roster. Zion is a talent.
It is so much fun to be the guy that picks, you know what, the number 1 seed overall in the country, they're going down. They're losing. But I feel like this year, it's just so hard to say that for Duke. With Zion, they seem unstoppable.
The moment that Zion is off the court, all bets are off.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, to take as many losses as they did and still manage to take the number 1 seed overall after a remarkable ACC tournament run.
And we just saw a great game, Duke versus UNC, and one of the best Duke-UNC games I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
It was amazing.
No. So, ultimately,
you got Duke.
I want to pick against them. I want to say that, there'll be some underdog who comes out this year that'll dethrone the evil empire of Duke, who has been going all year. I just can't pick against them. How about you?
I agree. I love Virginia Tech. Good 4 seed. I also like Florida State. So those are 2 4 seeds that I really like in this tournament. But again, I got Duke getting it all the way to the championship game. Not necessarily winning, but my final 4 is Duke, Michigan, UVA, and UNC. Yes, I don't have Gonzaga coming all the way from the West because I really like Florida State versus Gonzaga. What do you think about that game?
My one thing about Gonzaga, and the one thing that's keeping me from picking Florida State over Gonzaga, is that I know for a fact that Gonzaga is a Kingslayer. We saw earlier this season, Gonzaga took down Duke, and they took down a Duke with Zion.
Yes.
A Duke that is early into a season. So
when Duke seemed like, oh my God, Duke. Have you seen Zion Williamson?
When Duke
that Duke
was Duke, Gonzaga took them down in a commanding victory over them.
So we've seen the peak of Duke. Peak of Gonzaga.
Peak of Gonzaga. I really want to say that Gonzaga makes it to the championship. You propose a good point with FSU, but I will say that the more likely upset in the 4th seed, in my opinion, would be Virginia Tech. We've already seen Virginia Tech beat Duke this season, as we have with Gonzaga.
And ultimately, they beat them with Zion, even.
I don't believe they did.
They beat them when Virginia was off.
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, they beat him when he was off.
Yes. No. But, still, a win is a win. And even without Zion, Duke still has a very stacked roster, to say the least, although they haven't been performing as well without Zion. Another thing you mentioned, you have UNC winning it all.
Yes, I do.
I beg to differ. As much as I would love to see an ACC showdown between Duke and UNC in our final, I just don't see UNC getting out of the Midwest tournament alive. I actually have the University of Kentucky surviving in the Midwest, and I also have the University of Tennessee Knoxville in the South. Reasons for both of these: one, UNC, as great as a team they are, although they definitely competed in the ACC tournament, the University of Kentucky, there's a part of me that wants to throw out some statistics that I'd say support me, but this is just some sort of gut feeling. Sometimes you look at a game and you sit there and you stare at a matchup and you say, this has the potential to be an upset.
I
see that with the UNC Kentucky
That's
game.
a huge part of March Madness. Because there's some people that are like, I like them because of their mascots. I like them for their funny names, for their team colors. By the way, if you are betting for team colors, blue has and always will be the best color.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, when you have teams like Duke and Kentucky donning that color, it's hard to not win. Regarding the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, really a matchup, the UVA-UTK matchup, which I have in the Elite Eight. that may be one of the hardest games I've ever had to pick.
Yes.
Because when I'm looking at this, I see UVA, which is out of the ACC, obviously the stronger conference statistically than the SEC. But the University of Tennessee Volunteers have had a remarkable defense this year. Their margins of victory are 9 points. 9.5 has been their average margin of victory this year. I can't deny how stifling their defense has been. I ultimately, and you could say that I'm playing to the audience here. I know a ton of you are Vols fans out there. But I got the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, not only getting into the Final Four, but I actually have them in our championship matchup against Duke.
Okay, so just so we can lay it out for the people, my Final Four is Duke, Michigan, Virginia, and UNC. And yours is?
Mine is Duke, Gonzaga, Tennessee, Knoxville, and Kentucky. Ultimately, our matchups, I believe.
Yep. I have Duke, UNC.
I got Duke versus Tennessee at Knoxville, and our champions?
UNC.
And I got Duke.
Okay.
So with sleepers, I want to say that I have two.
Yeah, because
those being, it's hard to not pick sleepers, especially in this matchup with a lot of 1 seeds that some may say are weaker this year than they are in the past.
Questionable 5 seeds.
Absolutely, they're certainly, once again, I mentioned Virginia Tech earlier. I see them as a formidable opponent at the 4 seed, even though statistically speaking, 4 seeds have a harder route to the championship than per se an 11 seed like Loyola Chicago. But even then, my 2 sleepers that I'm really liking, Virginia Tech and actually a real high seed, Murray State, who's been commanding this year.
Yeah, Murray State's been great. They've got the John Morant. Apologies if I butchered that pronunciation. 24.6 points per game. 10 assists. The guy's insane. Just straight up
a monster.
Insane.
Definitely a playmaker. The only thing that makes me question their legitimacy as a Cinderella is the fact that they got to face FSU if they pull it out.
It's been a great team.
They've been remarkable. So,
my sleeper, I like Belmont. I want them to beat Temple, beat Maryland.
Coming out of the playing games.
Yep. And then beat LSU. They are scoring 87.4 points per game. That's the second best offense in the nation. They have 20 assists per game. That's the best in the nation. Defense, it could be a little better. It's a little lacking, but they've got chemistry is what I can see from assists. They've got that offense, and they actually shoot 50% from the floor. I like Belmont. LSU has kind of been disappointing a little bit recently. They've kind of been falling apart, I would say. So I think they can beat Temple, beat Maryland, and then all the way to beat LSU. And then, I've got them falling to the mighty Michigan State. But I think a respectable run, nonetheless.
You do have to commend them if they manage to pull that out. That is certainly a respectable run for a 12 seed. I think that does it for us.
Yep.
We'll turn it over to Brendan and
Andrew Fowler.
Thanks, William and Mac. All right, now we've got our look at who we think is going to make the Final Four. We've each got a sleeper, a Cinderella for the tournament, and we've got our champion.
That's right, Andrew. We've got some exciting action to see in this year's tournament. So my Cinderella picks, I have 7 Wofford potentially beating Kentucky. I think they've come off with a 20-game win streak. They've played lights out throughout the season. Another potential upset I could see is Murray State, the 12 seed. They could potentially beat Florida State. It's a possibility, though. They don't have the talent. They do, although they do have a player named John Morant, who happens to be the second projected pick in this year's upcoming draft. So that would be interesting to see. And a few other teams that have the potential to create chaos, in my mind, are Florida State, 4 seed, 6 seed Buffalo, 14 seed Yale, and 11 seeded Ohio State. What about you, Andrew? Who are your Cinderella teams?
So I've got kind of mine's not necessarily a Cinderella by definition because that would be a 12 seed beating a 5 and they're around 64. But I've got Iowa State beating Kentucky in the Sweet 16. I think Iowa State has proven to be able to compete with very good teams such as Kansas, like in the Big Ten tournament. And I could definitely see Kentucky choking against them as Kentucky has shown to be able to choke before in the tournament.
All right, Andrew. Who do you have as your Final Four this year?
All right, so my Final Four in the East, I've definitely got to take Duke. I think anyone else that chooses anything else is just hoping they're going to get lucky and have an upset, and they'll be the only person to put that for their bracket. But I'm a UNC fan, so it pains me to say this, but I definitely just think Duke is dominating right now. Zion is unstoppable, and there are only a few teams in this tournament that I can see putting them up to a challenge, and none of them are in their first division. So, all right, my second pick for the Final Four in the West, I'm putting my money on Florida State. They played very surprisingly well in the ACC tournament, upsetting Virginia, and competing very well against Duke, arguably the best team in the nation. They've got size on their side in most cases, and a very deep roster that will serve them well playing deep into the tournament. In the Midwest, I've got to take North Carolina. I'm slightly partial as they are my team, but I have no doubt they could beat any of those teams in the Midwest division. Every year they're constantly a strong team, and they usually go pretty far into the tourney. They've got great chemistry, and I'm confident Roy will lead them far into the tournament this year. In the South, I will go with Tennessee. 2019 has been Tennessee's year for basketball. They've shown determination, great skill, and teamwork to get them a 2 seed in this tournament, which was kind of surprising to me to see them at the 2 spot. My Elite 8 prediction is going to be Virginia versus Tennessee, and I'm predicting Tennessee will upset Virginia. Now, the reason I call that an upset is just because I believe Virginia would generally be a better team, but I think Tennessee is going to be able to pull out the W against Virginia. And I know this is something a lot of you people would be happy to see, so. All right, Brennan, let's hear your Final Four.
All right. So for my Final Four, shouldn't be all that shocking. I have 1-seeded Duke coming out of the East. I have 2-seeded Michigan coming out of the West. I have 2-seeded Tennessee coming out of the South. And I have 1-seeded North Carolina coming out of the Midwest. Andrew, I do not see any problems for Duke. Zion Williamson company. Upon returning from his injury, Williamson has been averaging a whopping 27 points per game, which is impressive for a college basketball player.
Freshman, too.
The team plays lights out when Williamson is on the court. However, we must not forget about the presence of Cam Reddish, R.J. Barrett, and Trey Jones. The team is complete and has looked flawless upon Zion's return. Although I think Duke's primary challenger is 1-seeded North Carolina, who I have playing against Duke in the national championship. Ultimately, these are the best 2 teams in college basketball, and they have proved that if you've watched any of the games they've played against each other this year. However, Duke is going to pull it out, as they have been for the most part. Duke will pull out the victory, 78-60. The Duke Blue Devils are your 2019 NCAA champions.
All right, in my championship, I'm definitely going to think UNC Duke in the championship, as I think they're the 2 most dominating teams right now. The fan in me says UNC will win, but I mean, Zion. I mean, he dominates every time he's on the court. He's only a freshman. He already plays like an NBA player. I wish I could say UNC, but I think Duke's going to take the win. Maybe something like 79-73. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. Maybe a few close shots at the end will give them the win.
Right. Thank you guys for listening to our predictions. I hope they are right, although we will see. So have a great spring break, everyone, and we'll be back soon.